Before we begin this video, I want you to check out this footage. It's asking a woman if she believes that men and women can be friends. Take a look.
Is it possible for an attractive man and an attractive woman to just be friends?
It is if they're not attracted to each other. Then it's possible for them to be friends, yeah.
Okay. What happens if one is and one isn't?
Attracted to them?
Yeah.
It's going to be awkward because like one of them is going to kind of like hit on the other one and you're going to have to keep rejecting the person. So I think eventually it just
gets awkward.
It won't work out, yeah. Someone will get disappointed.
Right.
She's absolutely right. Romantic attraction can really complicate things. There are lots of situations where a guy likes a girl, but the feeling is not reciprocated, or perhaps the other way around, she likes him, but he's not feeling it, and it really prevents a friendship from being able to develop. I think we can all acknowledge that that's a reality, that when romantic feelings are involved, it really prevents, the viability of a male-female friendship from developing. But there is always the danger of throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And yes, if one person's attracted to the other, then can a friendship really exist? Probably not. But does that mean that it is impossible to have female friends? Absolutely not. I would go even further and say that having female friends is an absolute necessity, and having lots of female friends is going to drastically improve your dating life. You hear me say that and perhaps you're skeptical. That's okay, I don't mind, but what I will ask is that you reserve judgment until the end of the video. This is a really important topic and I thought a lot about this, and I'm going to be approaching this perhaps from an angle that you haven't considered before. So just hear me out. This might surprise people to hear, but one of the most frequent topics that I cover in my private consultations with people is how important it is to have female friends. Very few of the guys that I speak to in my private consultations have a social circle with lots of women in them. They don't have a lot of female friends, and often they're quite skeptical as to the practicality or even the possibility of having female friends. But inevitably, I find that by the end of the conversation, after I've explained my point of view, they understand the wisdom in what I'm saying. In order to get there though, we had to overcome a lot of resistance. For some guys, they're just not used to viewing women in any way that's not romantic or sexual. Maybe they've been single for a while and they're really feeling that itch. And so when they meet women, they're judging her in her capacity to fulfill that girlfriend role. That's at the forefront of their mind. They're not considering whether or not to make women into a friend. That's not what they're judging women based on. It's like with everything in life. You notice more of what you're paying attention to. If you've got a man who's hungry walking down the street, then he's going to be noticing all the cafes and restaurants. If you take a nature lover walking down that same street, he's going to notice all of the plants and trees that are on the street. If you notice a man who's been single for a while and is really feeling that itch, he's going to be noticing all the good-looking women on the street. It's not a bad thing to be noticing the good-looking women. Hopefully he approaches one of them and starts a conversation. Maybe he can get himself into a romantic relationship. But when you've got that kind of tunnel vision, the downside is that you're only viewing women in that specific context. Of course you're not going to have any female friends because every time you meet women, you're thinking of them in a sexual way and you're not even open to the possibility of friendship. Your mind doesn't even realize that it's excluding women from that possibility. That is a really common form of resistance that I've encountered, but there are a whole bunch of others as well. Another one is that some of the guys I speak to don't even believe that it's possible for men and women to be friends because they think that there's always going to be this underlying sexual element. I sort of understand where they're coming from, but on the other hand, it's difficult to relate to because, at least for me, I'm not attracted to every single woman that I meet. For me personally, I have very specific tastes in physical beauty for what I find desirable, and so the vast majority of women that I meet aren't going to, fall into that category. But just because I'm not physically attracted to them, that doesn't mean that they have nothing to offer. Doesn't mean that they're not a high quality person who's intelligent, interesting, ethical, dynamic, creative person. You might not want to make her your girlfriend, but that doesn't mean that a friendship with her wouldn't enhance your life. I also think, what about the girlfriends and wives of your male friends? I mean, even if you do find them physically attractive, those women are off limits. But you're going to be seeing them all the time. They're part of your social circle. When you go on holidays together, when you see them at parties, when you go out to dinner. Surely you want to be friends with these women since you see them so often. You want to have a good relationship with them, interesting conversations, all that stuff. So I think that the argument that because of the underlying sexual attraction that exists between men and women is going to interfere with female-male friendships, I don't think that that really holds up because you just aren't going to find every single woman attractive. Now, it's quite rare, but every now and then I do meet a guy who believes that men and women can't be friends, not just because of the interference of romantic feelings, but because they believe that men and women are just so fundamentally different that they really have nothing to offer each other outside of the sexual element. I have to say, I find this one the most bizarre. And it's not that I necessarily disagree. Men and women are very, very different. That's kind of the basis of this entire channel. But I don't find that those differences mean that it excludes the possibility of positive non-sexual interactions. I actually think that those differences are what makes the conversations so fascinating. There are times where I want to have deeply analytical, logical conversations. Maybe I even want an argument or a debate. And when I'm in that kind of mood, yeah, I'm probably going to go chat to my male friends. I just want to enjoy that pure masculine dynamic, really enjoy the thrill of an intellectual debate. But that's still only a small part of my personality. Sharing funny stories, discussing ideas, listening to the life experiences of other people, all of this can be done with women, and that's fascinating. I talk to women about the content of this channel all the time, and I find it fascinating. I love asking women to share with me their experiences of dating men, what it's like, what they're looking for, what their beliefs are, what they find attractive. All of that data feeds into my understanding of male-female dynamics. If you talk to the women in your life without preconceived ideas and without judgment, you will learn a lot, and that additional wisdom will benefit you tremendously. Now, lastly, and this is perhaps the biggest one, men don't want to be friends with women because they dread ending up in the friend zone. Now, on the whole, I am glad that concepts like the friend zone have been popularized so that men are aware of the dangers of just orbiting women. It is really heartbreaking when you see a guy who has a crush on a girl and spends months, sometimes even years of his life just wasted following her around, trying to prove to her that he's a legitimate dating prospect, hoping that one day she's going to change her mind. He thinks, if I'm just patient enough, maybe one day she's going to see me differently. And it really sucks because that very rarely happens. Mostly the guy is just getting led on and she's keeping him around for attention. Or it could be his fault. The signs are clear, he's just deeply in denial. By being aware of concepts like the friend zone, it keeps men from falling into this trap. It protects them, and that is definitely a good thing. But the hidden danger of that is that men start to believe that any kind of a friendship with a woman means that you're in the friend zone. But that is not how this works. The concept of the friend zone only applies when you as the man have romantic feelings for her and it's not reciprocated. You want her and she doesn't want you, so you settle for friendship. That's what the friend zone is. But if you're not attracted to her romantically, you just want to be friends with her and she just wants to be friends with you, that's not the friend zone, that's just friends. In the next part of this video, I want to explain to you why having female friends is really important for your mindset when entering the dating market. But first, I want to tell you about my most recent Patreon exclusive content. And it's about whether or not a man can be submissive during sex, but also dominant and masculine in the other parts of a relationship. This video was inspired by a question someone asked me on my Patreon. So if you have a question you've always wanted to ask me, you've wanted me to make a video on a certain topic, then go ahead and sign up on my Patreon. You can access this video plus all of my other videos, just $5 a month, and I'd love to receive your support. Okay, now back to why you should have female friends and why it's important for your mindset. I'm not going to talk about why it's good to listen to differing perspectives or why it's just a good thing to have friends in your life. That should be self-evident. I want to talk about why having female friends is going to improve your dating life, specifically as it relates to your mindset, because very few men understand this. I have spoken many times on this channel about how much more difficulty men have on the dating market than women. The data shows that on dating sites like Tinder, only 1 in every 115 women is going to swipe right on you, is going to find you attractive, even if you're just an averagely attractive guy. And even then, even if you do get that match, the likelihood that she's actually going to respond to your messages is very, very low. 80% of men on dating sites like OkCupid were rated as below average in terms of physical attractiveness. Even professional pickup artists, guys who spend all day, every day seducing women and teaching other guys how to do this, get blown out and rejected way more often than they are successful. When you see these professional dating coaches actually break down the data, how many women they approached, how often they got a number, how often they got a response, a date, a relationship, the result is very, very low. This is the reality of our dating market. Men are just not the valuable gender. Women have an absolute abundance of male attention. They're getting hit on by thirsty guys all of the time. And with so much abundance of men around, it's very difficult for the average guy to actually stand out and demonstrate that he's different and unique. So in the context of all of this difficulty, you have to work really, really hard to protect your mindset. Being calm and being confident is what's attractive to women. And so that's the mindset that you have to have. But what happens if the only time that you're ever interacting with women is in a romantic context? When you're hitting on them, when you're asking them out. In that case, basically all of your exposure to the feminine is going to be them rejecting you, because that's just the odds of the dating market. That's how the data plays out. Statistically speaking, you are so much more likely to experience rejection than success. You will be trapped in this uncomfortable dynamic of the dating market. That's how you're exposed to women, is you pursuing them, you chasing them, and ultimately, in most cases, getting rejected. I am simplifying this, of course. I do know that there are ways to structure your life so that women chase you, but I'm just trying to illustrate a point, so stay with me. In the context of the dating market, women are the more valuable ones. They have the abundance, and you, as a man, are the less valuable one. That's why you have to do the pursuing. You are the one with the scarcity. And so if the only interactions that you have with women are in that context, the dating context, where rejection is way more likely than success, well, that's when your mindset begins to deteriorate. You begin to expect failure. You feel inherently less powerful. You feel insecure, you feel less valuable, and you begin to resent women. Why do they have it so easy when you put in all this time, all this effort, all this hard work, and experience a fraction of the success that they do? But you see, the danger here is that that victim mindset is not attractive to women. Men who think this way, men who have these kinds of thoughts swirling around their head, are not desirable to women. But here's the secret, here's the hack. Because if you have lots and lots of female friends, then most of your interactions with the feminine are not going to be in this terribly unequal dating market. It's going to be in the context of friendship, where you're both equals. This is the way that you protect your mindset so that you don't grow bitter and resentful about women. Yes, maybe 2 girls rejected you that week when you were asking them out on dates, but you also had 20 pleasant interactions with just female friends, fun, interesting conversations where the both of you conversed as equals. All of that positive exposure to women means that you're going to be more relaxed around them, which in turn creates a positive mindset, which again, in turn means that you're going to be more attractive to women overall. Just think it through. What is going to happen to your mindset if the only time you ever interact with women is in a dating context, where you're pursuing them, where you're the less valuable, less powerful one, and where you're experiencing rejection more often than success? You can see how quickly it's going to turn into a vicious cycle and become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You become more bitter and resentful about women, which in turn makes you less attractive, which in turn makes them more likely to reject you, and then right back to the start, where you go more bitter and resentful about women. This is so important to understand. You absolutely have to protect your mindset. And the best way to do that is to interact with women outside of the context of dating, being friends with them. If you're living your life right, the majority of the interactions that you have with women should not be you trying to sleep with them. If that's the case, then you're doing something wrong. You should be interacting with women primarily as individuals, as human beings, as just another interesting person to be friends with and to have great conversations with. As a man, the dating market is where you have the least power, so why would you want to stay there for the majority of your time? Make female friends, and not just with the women that you're sexually attracted to that you want to sleep with one day. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all of those women who you ignored because they weren't pretty enough, that you didn't consider as a viable dating prospect. They might have fantastic personalities. They might be interesting people. Make friends with those women. Just because they're not physically your type doesn't mean that they have nothing to offer your life. They could enhance your life in innumerable ways if you just gave them a chance. If they are high quality individuals, and I only recommend being friends with high quality individuals, then they will improve your life dramatically. Who knows, they might even introduce you to some of their female friends who they think that you'd be compatible with. That's possible. It shouldn't be your main reason for doing it, but it could be a nice added bonus. Remember, if you want to hear more from me, I have a whole bunch of exclusive video content available on my Patreon. It's just $5 a month, and I'd love to see you over there. This video is brought to you by Here Be Dragons, the story of a man who embarks on a 6-month experiment into the bizarre world of sugar babies. My full review of the book is in the description box below.